You were trying to use humor to make a larger point about our priorities relative to spending, pensions. You and I have talked about this for years and years, ever since I've known you. This idea that we're living in a fantasy world up there, and yet
absolutely,
they're talking about stuff all around the edges.
Sometimes levity can convey a message more powerfully than a sober, serious statement, and I think that that's what happened in this particular situation.
What were you trying to say?
What I said, the message that I gave to that audience was well received and understood, and it wasn't insulting. It conveyed a message that while we are spending so much time on a number of social issues, we're not talking any bit on financial issues, and the state is in a fiscal crisis. And yet, while we're dealing with social matters, no one's talking about the financial issues that are confronting us, that are frankly the most important issues confronting every citizen in the state.
Ironically, you've gotten more attention now for your main issue, this idea of what you just enunciated there, than you might have any other way.
I can't complain that a week after having made that statement, which was literally a week ago today, people are still dissecting the message and talking about its relevance. And I think it is a relevant message. Are we focused on the issues that are important to the citizens of the state of Rhode Island? And I proffered at that event that we're not. We're focused on a lot of sidebar issues, frankly, a lot of social issues that don't take the forefront on most people's minds. They're concerned about finances. They're concerned about cities and towns talking about bankruptcy. They're concerned about pension funds that may not be there. And I think that's the message I tried to bring to that room, that we need to focus, get our mind back on that area.
You say you tried to bring it to that room. Do you see now, can you see now, that maybe there would have been a better way to say it, that you've insulted?
I succeeded in bringing that message to that room. And I can't
to that room, but the larger Rhode Island. You know, of course, that the Guatemalan community is deeply offended.
As I've heard, some members of that community were offended. But I've spoken to a number of members of the Guatemalan community that do not share that feeling and saw it for what it was. It was political sarcasm meant to convey a message, and it worked, frankly.
Do you regret it?
No, I don't. I don't regret the fact.
The Guatemalan community is asking for an apology. Will you apologize?
I apologize when appropriate and or necessary, and I don't identify this situation as representing either of those circumstances.
I take that as a no apology.
I think I just told you that I stand by my statement. It conveyed an important message. It was well received, and most people understand what I said. And I just don't feel that this circumstance deems anything further than that.
Do you think it's an overreaction on the Guatemalan community's part?
It's absolutely overreaction. But I understand that the Guatemalan community is taking an opportunity to perhaps convey messages that they otherwise wouldn't have had a soapbox to convey.
So in a way, you both are getting to a publicity zone that you might not have gotten to otherwise.
Well, you know, it's a politician.
In an odd way.
It's a politician's hope that their message is heard. And I would hope and expect that the Guatemalan community is happy that, in a way, their message was heard.
That's a backwards way of looking at it, but that may actually be the essence of it, that each side, you and they, through this joke, as you call it, got your respective messages out.
That's one way to look at it.
Who would have thunk? I mean, you talk about the law of unintended consequences.
Lest we forget, I'm the minority leader of a very small caucus, and yet a week later they're still talking about the message that I brought to that room.
So from your perspective, it's victory, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. And a lot of the rest of the Rhode Island media might not be talking to you, and yet you're trying to make, as you have been trying to make for years and years, as Nicky Gorham was trying to make, and as his father Brad tried before him, to get the message out that we can't spend in perpetuity.
Exactly. People that have heard me over the years, particularly at that event, probably appreciate the redundancy of my message. I brought that same message to that room year in and year out. I hoped that this was the year it would be heard, and frankly it was.
Did you expect this?
I expected that would be. I expected it would be taken note of. To the extent that it's been blown out of proportion, I don't think anybody expected the spectacle that it's become.